Hey, what's going on guys, it's Bagas here, and today we're gonna be reviewing an interesting film because it focuses on a very interesting topic. Would you believe it? Because that sentence, I just pretty much said the exact same sentence twice. Anyways, today we're gonna be reviewing Dragons, a Fantasy Made Real. Or Dragons World of Fantasy Made Real, I don't know, it has several names behind it. And I know it's technically a mockumentary, not a documentary, but I mean, it does tackle a very intriguing format for documentaries that I think is worth exploring. Also, I mean, it has T-Rex, so like, yeah. Dragons, a Fantasy Made Real is a 99-minute film that basically tells the fictional history and prehistory of the dragon. It depicts dragons from the Cretaceous up until the 15th century. Alongside that, we also get the story of Dr. Jack Tanner as he examines the fictional body of a dragon and delivers information about its anatomy and other stuff to the audience. After a cool opening montage of dragons, we jump to the Cretaceous and witness a fight between a T-Rex and a mother prehistoric dragon. The sequence lets you know straight away what you're in for, and I love how it doesn't waste time building up the dragon, it just shows them in action, and it does a great job at hooking in the audience. During this, we also get to see Dr. Jack Tanner as he obsessively claims that his T-Rex was killed by a dragon, and a bit later on, we see him investigating a body in Romania. Back in the Cretaceous, we see the young dragon standing over his dead mother, and then an older male appears, and we get this very intense chase scene. By the way, the music used here is very fitting. We see our young dragon successfully take off for the first time, and several years later, we see him battling for territory with another male in an aerial dogfight. I like how this segment takes its time to let the audience sink into the film and get accustomed to it. I also really like how they explain the basic traits of a dragon, like, flying and breathing fire as early as possible, so that we can get to the more or less well-known, for lack of a better word, features of a dragon. We then get to see how dragons survive the KT event through marine dragons, which makes sense when you look at other species that survive the KT event, and we also see it evolve into another species, the forest dragon. I do like how this kind of explains the Chinese depictions of dragons as serpentine reptiles, because this type of body plan does fit more with an animal more adapted to aquatic life. Also, we see the forest dragon use sound mimicry. It's a really cool and unique feature the filmmakers added, and I like the creativeness in display. The forest dragon also uses fire as a cooking tool, which once again is very unique and interesting. This part ends with early humans utilizing the dragon's fire to burn forests, make weapons, and it's still such a real problem we're facing today, and I'm glad that the filmmakers incorporated the message into their storytelling. Honestly, I would have loved to see more of these two dragons, but what we did get, especially with the forest dragon, I still loved, and I mean it does mean that we'll get more with the next dragon. The final part focuses on a female mountain dragon as she tries to attract a mate, and when she does, they engage in this beautiful aerial ritual that is just visually spectacular. We then jump to see how dragons build their nests with rocks shielded around the eggs, and they use their fire to regulate the temperature. Once again, it's a very unique and interesting concept that really shows the filmmaker's creativity when it comes to using the dragon's iconic traits in unique ways. Also, the male, being the deadbeat dad that he is, leaves the nest unattended to, causing the temperature to fall into critical levels and causing one of the chicks to die, and then he leaves when the female gets pissed at him. What a frickin' Chad. After this, we see the female forced to raid livestock to feed herself and her daughter, and then we get a really wholesome scene of the mother and daughter basking in the sun together. And there's just this very relatable element to it that just makes what happens next that much more painful. Because due to her raiding, the mother has a bounty on her head, which causes two knights to climb up the mountain and kill her daughter. However, to say the least, when the mother comes back, it does not end well for the knights. We then get this small moment of the mother grieving, and once again, there's just this air of empathy we feel for her that just really hits you in the feels. The mother then goes into hibernation, and when she wakes up, she engages in a final battle against the knights. And yeah, the fight choreography is a bit goofy, but it's still an epic crescendo to the story of the dragon. You also get to see the wrap up to Dr. Tanner's story, with him finding the mother's body and reuniting her with the daughter. And there's just something about a mother and daughter reuniting after like 600 years that just, I don't know, there's just something so beautiful and wholesome about it. The film ends with now Professor Jack Tanner going out and investigating another body, and honestly, it's the perfect way to end the film. For what it is, Dragons of Fantasy Made Real is such a great format that I really think more documentaries should explore, using real science to explain these fantastical creatures in a way where it's just meant to be like a fun adventure figuring out how these mythical creatures could exist. Also, I do like how the presentation is more akin to a traditional narrative rather than a documentary, because it makes it more forward with the fact that it's a mockumentary and not real, which is something that some other documentaries don't get the memo. Mermaids. I also just really like the scientific explanations behind the biology of the dragons, because in reality, a flying fire-breathing dragon is a bonkers idea, but the filmmakers really did a good job at explaining the adaptations that would be needed. There are also parts when the stories in the segments line up with Dr. Tanner's discovery, like when Dr. Tanner discovers how dragons use air sacs filled with hydrogen to fly, we see a baby prehistoric dragon fly. It gives an aspect of the audience learning with Dr. Tanner as he makes his discoveries. Dr. Tanner's parts also help break up the film, and honestly it's just really fun to see him discovering new aspects about the dragon's anatomy. The segments themselves were also just really good, particularly the first and the last one. The first one hooks you into the film and makes you want to watch more, as it does kind of end in a cliffhanger of how the dragon survived the KT event. Then the last segment is really the peak of the film. They bust out all the storytelling aspects to create a tragic story of a mother just trying to provide for her daughter by any means, and that causing her pain and loss just makes the audience sympathize with these fictional creatures and almost makes you want to believe they actually existed. I mean, it definitely fooled me as a kid. I also really like how they incorporated the real life myths of dragons in this telling, because when you think about it, yeah, all these different and varying cultures all came up with the concept of a dragon independently of each other. And the film uses this as a basis of how dragons diversified. The film also has a very interesting atmosphere to it, especially with the music. It just feels very different from a lot of documentaries that I've seen, and honestly, it makes it really distinct and special. Also, for 2004, the CGI is actually pretty dang good. The animation is smooth, the dragons look great, and yeah, like I said earlier, the fight choreography is a bit but like, for its time, visuals wise, looks pretty good. Overall, Dragons of Fantasy Made Real is just an interesting format for a documentary, and I left the film wanting more. It just gives that nuances to documentaries that I think they really need to attract mainstream audiences. I also watched this a lot as a kid, so nostalgia also played a part in why I like it so much. Now, like I say in pretty much all of these videos, if you haven't checked it out, you'll definitely, do so, because you'll definitely leave it feeling very intrigued about this format of documentary. Alright, tier list time. Quality-wise, I give it a 4.6. It's got good storytelling and a very interesting concept on its own. And it's also presented in a fun and interesting way that also, makes it forward to the fact that it's not actually real, because since it's a mockumentary, not an actual real life documentary, so it's fake, and I'm glad they kind of presented it in a way where it's obvious that it's fake. And really, my only criticisms are just minor nitpicks about like the choreography, and sometimes the visuals maybe aren't the best at times, but I mean overall the visuals are still great. Entertainment wise, I give it a 4.6 again. Action scenes are really cool, even if, like I keep saying, the fight choreography is maybe not the best. I mean, I don't blame them, because it's like physical actors interacting with the CGI dragon, so they did the best with what they had. And, I mean, aside from that, there's just something so entertaining about seeing Dr. Tanner discovering things and features about the dragons and just geeking out over them. It's just, I don't know, it's just every kid's dream is probably like that, that's into this sort of stuff. Every kid has imagined themselves in his position, probably. Rewatchability wise, I give it a 4.5. It's 99 minutes, so it's like basically 10 minutes longer than like March of the Dinosaurs. And the first part kind of does takes its time and is a bit slower, but then after that the film kind of quickens and the overall pacing is actually really great. I didn't even mention that, but yeah, the first part is a bit slow, but then after that it speeds up quite significantly. And then in the final bit it kind of slows down again, but that's just basic storytelling. And I mean, it's just also fun to revisit this once in a while, like I do. And I don't know, I don't know. I guess it's fun to imagine dragons actually existing, and therefore, this is like the only documentary out there that actually takes this format successfully. And I guess I just kind of that wasn't the point of the format. Anyways, in my my opinion, I give it a 4.5. I really like it, and I have a lot of childhood memories of it. And basically everything I said that I liked about it I already said previously. And that gives it a total score of 18.2, putting it in the A tier below When Dinosaurs Roamed America, which I reviewed last 2 weeks. Check it out. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And my voice is dead, but I'm gonna take a drink after this. And I don't really have much else to say other than the fact that I'm kind of running out of documentaries to review. And I mean, I have two more. I have two more that I'm waiting to review, so that covers me for the next month, I guess. But I mean, after that, I don't know. I'll find something. I have a month to figure it out. I'll find something to do. But yeah. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.